the Eagle game now for a minute. Obviously there's not much to analyze. The idea that the game turned on the interception in the first quarter. I don't know how to read the Vikings in this game. I could bring up fatigue, a little flat off the game against the Saints, but then they score on their first drive. They get the Eagles to punt on their first drive, though they got lucky. Smith dropped a pass, but they got him to punt. They got a 15-yard penalty on Philadelphia on a catcher's interference, so to speak. And then he throws the interception. Robinson goes length of the field zigzags his way to the end zone, 7-7. And essentially Minnesota's out of the game, essentially. They got hit by a right hand and they stayed down, is what it came down to. Now, they did not show any resourcefulness at all. They did not show any guts. They did not show any toughness. It reminded me a lot of the giant Minnesota game in 2000 when Kerry Collins went crazy and the Giants beat him 41-0. This game reminded me a lot of that game. This game, they scored 38 consecutive points. Foles, pretty much a pedestrian quarterback like Collins was for the most part. Collins a little better than that, but, for the most part. Foles played great. Like Collins played great. And, there was a player or two early in that giant Viking game which went against Minnesota, and they fell apart. And obviously the interception here, and Minnesota fell apart. So I saw a lot of similarities there. I'm not too sure what to say about the Eagles. They are playing that disrespect card perfectly. Peterson has done a tremendous job. He's been aggressive. He hasn't played not to lose with Foles. He's treated the game like Wentz is his starting quarterback, so give him a lot of credit for that. He even got aggressive on that first drive, third quarter at 24-7. So he has done a superb job of, basically playing to his team's strengths, and he's not been conservative. He's flea flickers all over the place. They had a 21-3 lead with the ball late in the first half at the 8-yard line. And what does he do? He goes right down the field and they kick a field goal. So from that standpoint, that was phenomenal. So he really did as good a job as you possibly can do as far as his play calling is concerned. He just did as good a job. You can't do a better job of using what he has at his weapons. He's got Schwartz to handle the defense, so he doesn't do that much defensively. He allows Schwartz to do his thing from a defensive perspective. Schwartz runs his defense. They go after the quarterback. His defensive line caused trouble. The Vikings had a big fumble. I believe that was a 21-7. Had a big fumble there at the 12-yard line. They would have kicked at least a field goal. That wouldn't have stopped. They would have stopped the bleeding. They wouldn't have won the game. The game was won essentially, that 3rd and 10 new touchdown to the bomb to Jeffrey, and with a minute 9 to go in a half at 14-7, essentially put the game away. And I'm just a little alarmed myself of how Minnesota, that showed good toughness all year and did a good job on the road. I'm a little alarmed, more than a little. I'm very alarmed of how Minnesota, they got hit early, they got punched in the mouth early, and they completely collapsed, defensively especially. That defense stunk. Oh, my God. It was bad in the second half last week. I was willing to give them a pass because the Saints threw caution to the wind with Breeze, and up and down the field they went, plus a big turnover at 17-7 against New Orleans. So I said, you know what? They had a big lead. They got a little protective. Obviously, they were in a situation there at the interception when the Saints picked off a pass that maybe they got hit, pretty quickly. They had to deal with that, and they made it 17-14. But now, again, there was some carryover. I mean, their defense was mind-boggling. Then I got, I believe it was Linville Joseph sitting there flexing his muscles at 31-7 off a sack. Hey, Linville, get an idea. Look at the scoreboard, will you please? How dumb can you be doing stuff like that? Oh, my God. Flexing his biceps. Look how strong I am. Oh, shut up. You're getting destroyed in the game. Go back to, hold on, keep your mouth shut. And the Vikings just were absolutely, really a bad performance. I don't even want to kill Keenan. Keenan was not good enough to settle the game down. But I don't think the first interception was all his fault. He got hit in the elbow by Chris Long, so I can't go crazy on that. And the fumble, 21-7, wasn't necessarily his fault either. Was he great? No, but I can't necessarily kill him from that perspective. I mean, in this game, it's really, Peterson lost his starting quarterback on December 10th, maybe the MVP in the league, and everybody was about to write Philadelphia off. They did not play great for a couple of games. Matter of fact, and this is where I have an issue with the Philadelphia Eagle fan base, they booed him. I heard it. My own ears. They booed him off the field at halftime against the Raiders on Christmas night. Booed them off the field vociferously off the field. So their love affair now that the Eagles have with their team is a little shy. I know they like to think that, they're tough and everything else. That was ridiculous. I mean, they were trying to clinch the whole thing and they were booing them off the field. So you got to take that with a grain of salt. And they're talking about the Eagle fan. But they didn't miss a beat. They were fortunate to get by the Atlanta game, but Foles played pretty well, and they did. And then this game, they were dominant. It was a tremendous performance. I wish I could. I wish I could give you more. I mean, the secondary was terrible. Flea flickers, Foles. I wish I could break it down a little bit more scientifically for you. I could get on the officials. I can get on this. I can't do it. Nothing to say. Here's what I will say. Literally, that game started at 6:40. I'm not kidding, and I could not get into any other sporting event. I tried. I looked for something else. I actually tried to go to bed at 9:20. With 12 and a half minutes to go in the fourth quarter. That's how bothered I was by the flatness of that game. And that game, although they do have 46 million, that game got killed, comparatively speaking, with the ratings. Fox got destroyed with that game. Most of those games are around 50 million in the NFC. That game did 45, 46 million. People turned it off. I did not see a second of the post-game show. I couldn't. There's nothing to watch. The game was over. Nothing to watch. And that's embarrassing for Minnesota. A franchise that never does anything. I mean, they have not done a whole hell of a lot in these, in these big spots. We all know that. They've been pretty good for a team that's lost 4 Super Bowls. I think they've lost now 5 championship games. That's 9 times. All right. They never seem, whether home, road, they never seem to get over the hump by any stretch of the imagination. And yesterday's performance was mind-bogglingly bad. Now, I'll get this on the table. I'll get these 2 things on the table. One on Pats, one on this. My first inclination was that this is going to be a brutal Super Bowl. That this is going to be, first off, nobody in Minnesota is going to care, which that is not going to change. And Minnesota is going to be so flat for this game, it is going to be mind-boggling. They are going to have to generate some enthusiasm through Thursday of next week in a city in which the team got knocked out in a championship game is going to be tough to take. If they had lost last week, the Saints, they had a week or so to get over it. They can live with it. But to be that close and lose, that fan base in Minnesota, the last thing they want to do there is celebrate a football game. That's the first thing. And secondly, and I've kind of switched a little bit on this. I mean, my original thought was, how are the Eagles going to beat the Patriots in this setting and Brady with Nick Foles? That was my first original premise. That, hold on now, Nick Foles is going to go, quote unquote, on the road to beat New England in this setting. That's the first thing I said. But then I went to think about it a little bit, and I said, hold on now, let me get this straight. First off, New England always plays close Super Bowls. Always. They did not cover. They obviously lost outright twice as big favorites. They covered last year against Atlanta only because it was lucky cover. We all know that. They didn't cover against Carolina. They didn't cover against the Eagles. They never cover in the games. The game is always close. That's the first thing. And they're giving up 6 points. That's the first thing I said. And the second thing I've said, hey, who knows? Maybe this is the Eagles' time. They haven't won a championship in 58 years. Nobody thought that they'd be in this spot after Wentz went down. Nobody thought, at least I didn't, that they would blow out Minnesota. I could see winning, but not blow them out. And that is, of course, exactly what they did. Sometimes franchises, it's their time. Maybe it's Philadelphia's time. I've been thinking about that for 24 hours. I thought that about the Giants when they played Texas a long time ago. Sometimes it's your time. And how many times have I told you that the Patriots are due to lose one of these games? You can't win them all, even them. And they could have lost yesterday, could have lost to Pittsburgh, should have lost to Atlanta, should have lost to Seattle. I go on and on and on. They could have beaten the Giants in the first time in 08. 12, they were not as good in 08. But maybe the Patriots are due to lose one. So I don't know where I'm going with this game. You got to take Foles, and Belichick's a genius, but he'll be aggressive. Maybe they'll win one. Philadelphia is due to win a title in football. They've been a big-time team and a big franchise for a very, very long time. Maybe they'll do. Now, as far as the attendance of the game is concerned, there will be a demand for tickets in that game from the Eagle faithful. The Eagle fan will travel. The Eagle fan will get on a plane that weekend, and they will walk to Minnesota if they have to. But they get on a plane that weekend, and they get to Minneapolis. I've had 1 million Eagle fans through text, email, Facebook posts have asked me, Chris, do you have tickets? Well, we have tickets beginning at 5 o'clock. We'll give you tickets if you win a contest. Have tickets. So the Eagle fan will be there. The Patriot fan is not, there's not that many of them. I know they like to think that they're the universal team. They are not. The Patriot fan is I live there, so I know, they're a New London and North team. New London to Portland, Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Northern Connecticut, Maine. That is them. The Eagle fan likes to think they're a big team, too. They are not. The Eagle fan, now, listen, Philadelphia is a huge, Jersey's a populated state. Pennsylvania is a populated state. Delaware is not too far away. I mean, they have a good group of fan bases. Remember, more people live closer to Philly, Camden, New Jersey, Delaware than they do in Pittsfield, Mass. But the Philly fan is also there's not any Philadelphia fans anywhere in the country but in Philadelphia. This is not Cowboys. These are not Steelers. This is not Packers. These are not Raiders. These are not Giants. This is a team that is a local team. That's what they are. But the fans will travel. The Patriot fan will not. The Eagle fan will. So, but nobody in Minnesota is buying the tickets. They don't care. The Minnesota fan's not going to have anything to do with this game. Now, they rent their houses out. They flee the city, but they're not wrapped up in the game itself. They're not. So it'll be interesting to see what the juice is when you get to late next weekend. I don't think there'll be any juice in Minnesota at all. Nobody's going to go to Minnesota early to go to the Super Bowl. All right, they're going to be 30 degrees below zero. Nobody's going to games early. Nobody, not one person. They'll be there by Friday night, the Eagle fan. Friday night. Now, one other thing I'm going to say, all right, that is interesting. I don't care right now. I don't care about the Eagles either, but I'm not interested right now. I don't care if Brady lived in Minnesota for his life. I'm not interested right now in Brady's grandfather, his grandmother, that he went to Minnesota in the summertime to fish and shoot BB guns as an 8-year-old with Grandpa, who passed away a couple of years ago at 100 years old. Nobody gives a crap. Trust me. Nobody cares about Brady's little Facebook deal that he's putting together, that 60-minute show. Nobody cares. I wouldn't watch that if they did a screening with Tom and Giselle in my backyard. I wouldn't have my kids go, and I wouldn't go. I'm not interested, all right? The Patriots have urinated on the media for years and years and years and years. They have urinated on them. Last week, Tom, when we wanted to find out, just to be fair with sports fans, about his little thumb and his stitches, and it was a bad injury, gave us whiz C and walked out of his press conference after 4 minutes. Belichick never says a word. The Patriots are not, Amendola, they're the worst team to have in a Super Bowl because none of them ever say anything. They're boring. Gronkowski's got a little personality, but that's it. They're dull as hell. Nobody wants to hear from him. So the idea that we're all going to flock to Minnesota and, we're going to go venture to Brady's house to see where little Tommy grew up with Tom Sr. and the two sisters, I don't care. I'm not interested. I'm not interested in his wife. He is an all-time great. I think Don Deepy's a decent guy, but I'm not interested. That franchise has not been forthcoming. You get nothing out of them. They're boring. They're great, but they think the media is the enemy, all of them. And they're not going to get me to embrace this guy, to embrace this team after all these years. I will not do it. I was shocked. And if you hear Nance, who likes to raise the pom-poms when he's on that stand with the Patriots and Kraft and Belichick, all those little buddies, which he did yesterday. Tough to take. It's almost like Jim's the part owner of the team. I was waiting for him and Jonathan Kraft to do a little kumbaya. I mean, Jim, enough. Do the little interviews and get the hell out of there, please. I got Nance tapping him in the stomach. I got Brady tapping him. I can't take it. I throw up when I see that. And that separate hurts Nance. It's almost like Nance is too close to the guys he's covering to be on that Mount Rushmore that we talk about a lot. In my opinion, this is just me talking. But I'm amazed that writers, I read a lot about it in the last 24 hours, that they brought up on a broadcast. Who cares where Tom Brady went? Do you care that I went to Martha's Vineyard? And when I saw the moon, I always tell you that I saw the landing on the moon in Martha's Vineyard. Does anybody care? Who cares? Tom Brady has... You couldn't get Tom Brady on a radio program unless he's getting paid if his life depended on it. Yet now I'm supposed to buy his Facebook thing for an hour with his lovely wife running around with the little kitties in the backyard and watch Tom lift weights. And I'm also supposed to go get all teary-eyed when he shot the BB gun with the grandpa back in the 70s. I'm not interested. I don't care. So don't try to sell it to me. 18 after the hour, we continue. Mad Dog on.